Imagine discovering that some of your biggest life decisions weren't really yours. Not the people you keep falling in love with, not the way you react during conflict, not the fear that whispers, "Don't take that risk," not even the voice in your head that tells you you'll never be enough. Imagine if those thoughts were quietly installed years before you were old enough to question them. Children don't inherit only their parents' eyes, or their smile, or the shape of their hands. Sometimes, they inherit unfinished grief, inherited fear, inherited shame, inherited silence. And the strangest part? Most people spend their entire lives defending habits they never consciously chose, because the subconscious mind has one terrifying priority. It would rather keep you familiar than keep you free. By the end of this video, you'll understand why breaking toxic family patterns isn't about becoming a different person. It's about meeting the version of yourself that existed before someone else's pain rewrote your story. The invisible script. Have you ever caught yourself saying something your parents used to say and immediately hated hearing it come out of your mouth? Maybe it happened during an argument. Maybe it happened while comforting someone. Or maybe you looked in the mirror one day and realized you're slowly becoming the very person you promised you'd never become. That moment feels almost supernatural, as if someone else briefly took control. But psychology offers a different explanation. Your subconscious isn't trying to betray you. It's trying to protect a version of reality it learned was necessary for survival. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your conscious mind, the part reading books, watching self-improvement videos, setting ambitious goals, makes up only a small fraction of your mental activity. The rest happens beneath awareness, quietly, automatically, relentlessly. Every repeated experience, every emotional wound, every sentence spoken often enough becomes part of the operating system running in the background. Think of your conscious mind as the captain of a ship, confident, determined, certain about the destination. Now imagine discovering the engine room has been steering the ship the entire time. That's your subconscious, invisible, powerful, and frighteningly loyal to whatever it learned first. Which raises a disturbing question. If your subconscious was programmed during childhood, who wrote the code? Before you had memories, your mind was watching. Long before you understood language, your brain understood emotion. Before you could explain fear, you could feel it. Before you understood rejection, your nervous system remembered it. Picture a toddler sitting quietly in the corner while two adults argue. Nobody speaks to the child. Nobody blames them. Nobody even looks at them. Yet something permanent is happening. The child's heart races. Their muscles tense. Their breathing changes. Their brain reaches one conclusion: home is unpredictable. That belief may never be spoken aloud, but decades later, that same person might panic whenever relationships become emotionally intense. Not because they're weak, because their nervous system learned that love and danger often arrive together. That's how subconscious programming works. It doesn't ask whether something is true, it asks whether something happened often enough to become familiar. And familiarity is incredibly persuasive, even when it's painful, especially when it's painful. A child raised around constant criticism doesn't simply remember harsh words, they begin expecting criticism everywhere. A child who receives affection only after achieving something may grow into an adult who believes love must always be earned. Another child grows up watching parents suppress every emotion. Years later, they tell themselves, "I just don't know how to open up." But the truth is deeper. Their subconscious learned that vulnerability wasn't safe. Notice something: none of these people consciously chose these beliefs. The beliefs chose them. That's the frightening power of repetition. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between lessons intentionally taught and lessons accidentally demonstrated. Your family may have told you to be confident, but if they constantly doubted themselves, your subconscious believed their behavior instead. Because children don't become what they're told, they become what they're surrounded by. And that's where this story becomes even more unsettling. Because some patterns don't begin with your parents. They began generations before them. The pain you never experienced, but still carry. Imagine a grandfather who survived years of poverty. Every meal felt uncertain. Every bill carried fear. Every purchase felt dangerous. Eventually, he escaped that life. He earned enough, built a family, created stability. But something inside him never changed. His body still behaved as if disaster was just around the corner. He saved obsessively, distrusted opportunities, expected loss. His children grew up hearing one message repeated over and over. Don't waste anything. Be careful. The world isn't safe. Years passed. Those children became parents. Without realizing it, they passed on the same emotional atmosphere. Not through genetics alone, not through lectures, through thousands of tiny moments. The anxious tone whenever money came up, the guilt around spending, the fear hidden inside ordinary conversations. Eventually, a child was born into a financially stable home. No famine, no debt, no real danger. Yet they constantly felt anxious about money. Why? Because emotions are contagious long before beliefs become conscious. Psychologists sometimes call this emotional inheritance. Your nervous system learns from the emotional climate around you. The house itself becomes a classroom, not for mathematics, not for language, for survival. Maybe your family inherited emotional distance, maybe anger, maybe silence, maybe perfectionism, maybe people-pleasing, maybe distrust. Every generation tells itself, this is just how we are. But how we are is often just what we repeatedly survived. And survival strategies can quietly become prison walls. The person who never asks for help may believe they're independent. The truth? They learned dependence was punished. The person who apologizes every 5 minutes may believe they're simply polite. The truth? Their childhood taught them peace depended on keeping everyone else comfortable. Their personality became a coping mechanism, which leads to one of the biggest misconceptions in psychology. What you call your personality may actually be your history wearing a disguise. And once you see that, you begin questioning everything. Who would you be if fear hadn't introduced itself before confidence had ever the chance? Why your brain keeps choosing what hurts you? Here's a paradox that confuses almost everyone. Why would someone raised in emotional chaos keep finding emotionally unavailable partners? Why does someone desperate for peace keep creating conflict? Why do intelligent people repeat the same destructive habits even after recognizing them? The answer isn't lack of willpower, it's prediction. Your brain is, above all else, a prediction machine. Every second it asks one question: what happens next? The more predictable your environment becomes, the safer your brain feels, even if that environment is unhealthy. Imagine growing up in a home where affection always came after conflict. Arguments followed by apologies. Distance followed by affection. Pain followed by love. Your subconscious quietly connects those experiences. Without realizing it, your definition of love changes. Calm relationships begin to feel unfamiliar, almost boring. But emotional chaos? That feels like home. Not because it's healthy, because it's recognizable. This is why breaking toxic patterns feels so uncomfortable. You're not just changing behavior, you're asking your nervous system to stop trusting what once kept you alive. And the subconscious resists, not because it wants you to suffer, but because to your subconscious, the familiar has always meant survival. The unfamiliar, even if healthier, feels dangerous. Which is why so many people sabotage their own healing just as life starts improving. They mistake peace for emptiness, stability for boredom, healthy love for a lack of chemistry. But what if that feeling isn't intuition? What if it's simply old programming fighting to stay in control? Because what happens next in the rewiring process is where everything begins to change. And it starts with a realization that most people never have until it's too late. The day you realize your thoughts aren't all yours. There is a moment that changes everything. It doesn't happen in a therapist's office. It doesn't happen while reading another self-help book. It usually happens in complete silence. You're about to send a message, apply for a job, say I love you, set a boundary, walk away from someone who keeps hurting you, and then a voice appears. Don't. You'll regret it. You're not ready. Who do you think you are? Most people assume that's their intuition speaking, but intuition doesn't insult you. Fear does. Years of conditioning do. The subconscious has an incredible ability to disguise old survival strategies as present-day wisdom. That's why the voice feels convincing, because it's been rehearsing for years. Imagine carrying around an old map. The map was accurate once. It helped someone survive dangerous roads. But the world changed. New roads were built. The dangers disappeared. Yet you're still following directions written for a place that no longer exists. That's exactly what your subconscious does. It stores emotional maps, not objective reality. If you grew up believing mistakes led to humiliation, your subconscious still acts as though every mistake threatens your survival. If love once felt unpredictable, it keeps scanning healthy relationships for hidden danger. If speaking your mind once caused rejection, it assumes silence is still the safest option. Here's what most people never realize. Your subconscious isn't living in today's world. It's still reacting to yesterday's experiences. That's why healing isn't convincing yourself you're safe. It's teaching your nervous system that the danger has passed. And that lesson cannot be learned through logic alone, because trauma wasn't stored as information. It was stored as sensation, as emotion, as muscle tension, as a racing heartbeat, as the instinct to stay small. And until the body experiences safety, the mind keeps telling the same old story. But this is where something extraordinary begins to happen, because the brain is far more adaptable than most people imagine. The science of rewriting your inner operating system. For decades, scientists believed the adult brain was relatively fixed, that once you became an adult, your deepest mental patterns were set. But neuroscience revealed something remarkable. The brain is constantly changing. Every thought strengthens certain neural pathways. Every repeated emotion reinforces familiar circuits. Every repeated behavior tells the brain, keep this one, we'll need it again. Think about walking through a forest. The first time you walk across it, every step is difficult. Branches block your path, the ground is uneven, nothing feels natural. But walk that same path every day, and eventually a trail appears. Walking becomes effortless. Your subconscious works the same way. The habits you've repeated for years have become highways. Your healthier choices? They're barely visible footpaths. That's why change feels exhausting at first. You're not failing, you're building a new trail. And every time you choose differently, every time you pause before reacting, every time you refuse to repeat an inherited pattern, your brain begins laying down a different route. This process is called neuroplasticity. But here's what people misunderstand. Neuroplasticity isn't magic. It responds to repetition, not inspiration. Watching motivational videos won't permanently rewire your mind. Feeling inspired for one weekend won't erase 20 years of conditioning. Your subconscious doesn't change because something sounds true. It changes because something becomes familiar. That's a completely different process. Which means healing isn't one dramatic breakthrough. It's thousands of quiet decisions that slowly convince your brain this is the new normal. And slowly, almost invisibly, your emotional reactions begin changing before your beliefs do. One day you notice you didn't panic. Another day you realize you spoke honestly without apologizing. Another day you walk away from someone who would have controlled your life a year ago.
You don't feel like a different person. You simply stop recognizing the old one. But one obstacle still remains, and it's the reason so many people unknowingly return to the very patterns they're trying to escape. Why healing feels like losing your identity. Imagine spending 30 years believing you're the responsible one, the peacemaker, the people pleaser, the perfectionist, the caretaker, the strong one. These labels become more than descriptions, they become identities. Now imagine someone asks you to stop carrying everyone else's emotional burdens. It sounds simple, until your subconscious asks a terrifying question. If I'm not the caretaker anymore, who am I? This is the hidden grief of healing. You aren't just letting go of painful habits, you're saying goodbye to identities that once protected you. Sometimes people unconsciously sabotage their own growth because the old identity feels safer than the unknown future. A person raised in constant criticism may secretly feel uncomfortable receiving compliments. Someone who spent childhood earning love through achievement may feel guilty every time they rest. Someone who grew up believing conflict was normal may accidentally create drama simply because peace feels unfamiliar. Notice the pattern. Your subconscious doesn't only preserve memories, it preserves identities. And identities are incredibly difficult to surrender. Because every identity answers one fundamental question: how do I survive? The child who became invisible survived. The child who became perfect survived. The child who became funny survived. The child who never cried survived. But survival and living are not the same thing. Many adults mistake emotional numbness for strength, hyper-independence for confidence, people-pleasing for kindness, perfectionism for ambition, when in reality they're often brilliant adaptations to environments that no longer exist. Healing begins the moment you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What happened that taught me to become this version of myself?" That single question changes everything, because it replaces shame with understanding, and understanding creates something incredibly powerful: choice. The moment the cycle ends. Picture a family dinner. Someone makes a hurtful comment. For decades, everyone responded the same way: silence, defensiveness, anger, mockery. Nobody questioned it. It was simply how this family communicates. Then one person pauses, just for a second. Instead of reacting automatically, they breathe. They answer differently. Not perfectly, just differently. It seems insignificant, but psychologically, that pause is revolutionary. Because for the first time, the subconscious program was not allowed to finish running. That single interruption creates possibility. One new response becomes 2, then 10, then 100. Eventually, the old emotional pathway weakens, not because it disappeared, because it stopped being reinforced. This is how generational cycles actually break. Not through dramatic speeches, not through blaming previous generations, but through thousands of tiny moments where someone chooses awareness over autopilot. You become the person who says, "This pattern ends here." Not because you're stronger than the people before you, but because you're willing to examine what they never had the opportunity to question. Many of them weren't evil, they were surviving. They passed down what was passed to them: fear, silence, emotional distance, scarcity, shame. Not because they wanted you to suffer, but because pain often disguises itself as wisdom. And unless someone becomes conscious of it, every generation mistakes inherited survival for identity. That's why the bravest thing you'll ever do isn't changing your future. It's changing the emotional inheritance of people who haven't even been born yet. Because every healthy boundary you set, every fear you refuse to pass on, every moment you choose emotional awareness over unconscious reaction becomes a gift to someone you'll probably never meet. And that's how healing quietly echoes across generations. But there's one final truth, perhaps the most uncomfortable truth of all. Reprogramming your subconscious isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering the person you might have been before fear convinced you to forget. In the next video, we're going to learn the practical steps to reprogram your subconscious to break the toxic generational habit pattern. Ensure to subscribe and stay tuned. See you in the next video.